Want to welcome you guys back to another episode of Pistons Talk Podcast presented by FanDuel. Pistons start their week on the road against the Cleveland Cavaliers in Cleveland Eastern Conference rivalry, Central Division rivalry. The number one team and the number two team in the Central Division face off tonight. We're going to be getting into our quarter notes, box score, and why we feel the Pistons lost to the Cavs tonight. So let's get into the quarter notes. First thing that I really liked by Jalen Duren was his ability to be aggressive very early on and getting to the free throw line. First 2 minutes of this game, just didn't really cash in on the opportunity, only made 1 out of 4 free throws within the first 2 minutes. I just like the aggressiveness by Jalen Duren over the past couple of games. Ever since he's come back from All-Star break, I kind of feel like he's kind of just upped his level in terms of like putting together, 20 point, 10, 15, 16 rebound games. So Jalen Duren looked good out there. Obviously, you'd like to see him kind of cash in on those free throws at the end of the day. Not really blaming him for why the Pistons lost tonight. I feel like there are areas why they lost tonight. We're going to get into it a little bit later in this podcast. JB had to call a timeout very early on. It's kind of been a trend lately where this team doesn't really fully lock in, I feel, until after he calls a timeout. So he had to call a timeout after it was a 9-2 Cavs lead at the 9:28 mark. And after that, after he did call a timeout, Cleveland only scored 2 more points. And the Pistons tied this game at 11. And they looked more crisp. They were getting into their actions. They were playing good defense, rotating, communicating. And obviously, I think doing enough of these post-game podcasts, covering the Pistons, understanding what JB Bickerstaff expects out of these guys. He's probably telling them, like, hey, guys, like, let's pick up our defense. Let's communicate. Like, let's get this going. And that's exactly what happened. Jalen Duren did get his second foul at the 6:24 mark. But Isaiah Stewart actually came back. This was his first night back after serving that 7-game suspension. As you guys know, the Charlotte Hornets game right before All-Star break, he was suspended the most amount of games for leaving the bench and getting into kind of like a little altercation with Miles Bridges. But this was Stu's first game back. So JD getting 2 fouls wasn't that big of a deal because he did have Stu. But some of the fouls, I feel, on a night-to-night basis doing these post-game podcasts, they're very like 50-50. Like either the ref's going to call it or not, but he did pick up a second foul. Ryan Holland, like, had 2 threes in the first quarter. He had one that, like, I know it was like pure luck. He banked it off glass. And the second one he had really late to end the first quarter where it was just nothing but net. If anything, Ron Hollins is going to shoot that ball. He's going to shoot it. And he's got the confidence to shoot it. I know he's only a 20% three-point shooter, and you're probably saying, like, how does a 20% three-point shooter have confidence? He's just shooting it. And I credit him for that. But the Pistons were able to get a lead after 12, 27-25. Going into the second quarter, Cavs open up 15-5 run. And I'll just say this, okay? I honestly feel the second quarter is what lost the Pistons this game. They had a drought where they didn't score a field goal, I should say. They were still getting to the free throw line, but they didn't score a field goal for over 4 minutes. And this has been a trend that has happened throughout the seasons where they will have lulls where they're not actually scoring a field goal for 3, 4, 5 minutes at a time. And it's really hard to, whether you have a lead, to try to sustain that lead, or whether you're trying to come back like the Pistons were tonight. They had a 2-point lead, but that completely went out the window because the Cavs were able to kind of get on that run. There was one possession in particular that I want to talk about and bring up. Pistons gave 5 offensive rebounds, and they were only down 7 at that point, but the Cavs hit a 3, and it became a 10-point lead. And now JB Bickerstaff talked about it in this post-game show. It's just like, if teams are out hustling us, we're not going to win these games. We're not going to if we're not physical, we're not going to win these games. And he really felt that the Pistons didn't really show up on the physicality standpoint. Even Javonte Green saying, like, if we're, equal with the Cavs in rebounding, we didn't do our job. And I really felt the second quarter was a big reason for that. I mean, Keon Ellis was just a disruptor defensively, playing the passing lanes, switching on the Cade. I thought Keon Ellis and Jalen Tyson did a phenomenal job against Cade tonight. Cade had a really bad night shooting the basketball, Still had 14 assists, but it just wasn't really there offensively for him. And you go in the halftime only down 6, which I feel Pistons were very fortunate considering Cavs were just missing a lot of open shots that they probably usually hit. But it was 54-48 coming out of halftime. We used our challenge very early in the third, and it was unsuccessful. Jared Allen picked up Cade for his third personal foul, which coaching challenges are weird, man. It's just like I like that they're in the game, but I think some of the challenges that you have, like, you better be sure that that's an actual, like, overturn. It was unsuccessful, and I felt like there were a couple of plays in particular, like the Duncan screen, which wasn't really a screen. Like, I probably would have used my coach's challenge on that, but it's easier said than done sitting behind a computer doing a podcast, and I'm not actually coaching out there on the floor watching the game. So you probably kind of get in the moment, but Pistons weren't really able to use their coach's challenge because they kind of wasted it on the Jared Allen play. But Tobias Harris really stepped up in the third quarter for the Detroit Pistons in the scoring department. First 2 quarters wasn't really doing anything. In the third, believe he finished with 12 points. JB rolled out a double big lineup with Stu and Duran late in the third when the Cavs just had Evan Mobley out there because I think he was just looking for a lineup out there that was going to bring it on a physical standpoint. I wasn't really out there for too long. It was about maybe 2 or 3 minutes. And then Jared Allen got injured. He had a right knee injury and he didn't return, but the Cavs were still able to have a 9-point lead to end the third quarter. And it just seemed like anytime we got within like a 5 to 6 point range to try to get back into this game, they were just hitting timely threes. The Cavs are a very good 3-point shooting team. They shoot a hell of a lot of threes. They're kind of like the Boston Celtics in a sense. Like on any given night, the Cavs will shoot like 45 to 53s, and they're happy if they make 19 or 18 a night when they're playing you. But going into the fourth, I felt like this was our best quarter. And as soon as Asar Thompson subbed back into this game and checked back into this game, Pistons were just get more defensive stops. The Pistons defense really surged them to get back into the game when Cade was on the bench. And, they went on an 11-2 run and they got this down to a 2-point game. And they forced turnovers, but they just couldn't capitalize down the stretch. And they were also turning the ball over quite a bit in the fourth quarter. And when you kind of get into the late clock situation, this was weird because like there's like 20 some odd seconds. I felt like we took too much time to foul Dennis Schroeder. They did get a steal and they got it within 3, but like it was really weird clock management. I don't know if they were instructed not to foul or the refs just weren't calling it, but it was weird. And then you had the foul of Jalen Tyson, and he made it a 2-possession game. 113 to 109 was the final score. Pistons do fall to the Cavs in this one, but if we do kind of look into the box score and kind of look at the performances by the Pistons starters and the bench players. So Tobias Harris had 19 points, back-to-back games with Tobias Harris being effective out there. He was 50% from the field, 6 out of 12 to be exact. 1 for 3 from 3, 6 out of 7 for the free throw line, 5 rebounds, so +9 in the plus minus. Duncan Robinson in 34 minutes only scored 8 points. He was 2 out of 6 from the field, 2 out of 5 from 3, 2 for 2 from the free throw line. He had 2 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 turnovers, 2 steals, and 2 blocks. He was a +4. Duncan's has really struggled since coming back from the All-Star break. He's obviously going through a slump. Hopefully it doesn't last too much longer. Jalen Duran, who I thought was the Pistons' best player on the floor tonight, had 24 points. He was 7 out of 9 from the field, 10 out of 14 from the free throw line, 14 rebounds, 1 assist, 3 turnovers, 1 block. He was a +6. Cade Cunningham just had a miserable night in 39 minutes. He had 10 points, 4 out of 16 from the field, 0 for 3 from 3. Got to the free throw line once where he was 2 for 2, made both of his free throws, 6 rebounds, still had 14 assists. 5 turnovers, 1 steal, 1 block. He was a -11. Obviously, Cade wasn't really effective of scoring the basketball, but he was still looking to get his teammates involved, and you like to see that. I like to see the turnovers a little bit down more. 5 turnovers is quite a bit, but you got to really credit like the defenders and Jalen Tyson and Keon Ellis that were switched on to Cade for a majority of this game. Sar Thompson had another great performance at 31 minutes, 16 points. 7 out of 11 from the field, 2 out of 4 from the free throw line, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, 1 turnover, 4 steals, 1 block, plus 6. Stars is gonna be that type of player, honestly, man. Like, he'll probably give you, like, 15, 6, and 6, like, on any given night and a couple of steals and blocks. He's just a stat sheet stuffer. Say that 5 times fast, when it's late at night. But Sarr had a great game. Obviously, I'd like to see him play a little bit more, but understand that coach wanted to, give guys like Ryan Holland, Javonte Green minutes, especially Javonte Green because he played really well tonight. Isaiah Stewart in his first game back had 22 minutes, only scored 4 points. He was 2 out of 4 from the field, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 turnover, 1 steal, 2 blocks. He was a minus 10. Ron Holland in 19 minutes had 8 points, 3 out of 4 from the field, 2 out of 3 from 3, 5 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 turnover. He was a minus 17 in the box score tonight. Then you have Javonte Green in 13 minutes. He had 13 points, probably one of his better offensive performances that I've seen in quite some time. He was 5 out of 7 from the field, 3 out of 5 from 3, had 1 rebound and 1 steal. He was a minus 2 in the plus minus. Karis LeVert in 13 minutes only scored 2 points, 1 for 4 from the field, 0 for 3 from 3, 2 rebounds, 1 assist. He was a minus 12. Danish Jenkins on only 11 minutes scored 5 points, 2 out of 4 from the field, 1 for 1 from 3. He had 1 rebound, 1 assist. He was a plus 7 in the plus minus. But you can just tell, like, Cade really struggled to shoot the basketball. And it was just a thing where even though the Pistons did get close in this game, the Cavs just kind of kept them at bay and closed them out when they needed to. When you kind of look at just the team stats, Pistons shot a better percentage. They shot 51% from the field to Cleveland's 44. They shot 38% from 3 to Cleveland's 37, but when you kind of add context to it, the Pistons only attempted 24 threes. They made 9 of them, much better than the 4 from 30 performance that we got on Sunday. Cleveland shot 17 out of 46. So 46 attempts, they made 17 of them. Pistons shot 76% from the free throw line. Cleveland shot 77. They had 29 free throw attempts. Cleveland had 26. The rebounding battle was 44 to 38. Cleveland had 11 offensive rebounds. The Pistons had 10 offensive rebounds. I know Javonte Green said, like, the 50-50 balls, like the offensive rebounds, they really feel like the Pistons should dominate that on a night-to-night basis. And most nights they do. They just didn't really do that tonight with Cleveland. Pistons did out assist them 29 to 27. They had more steals, 9 to 7, more blocks, 7 to 4. Pistons did have more turnovers, 14 to 10. I really felt a lot of those turnovers, especially late in the game, really cost them. Fast break points, neither team really was scoring in the fast break too much, but Pistons had 10 to Cleveland's 9. Points in the paint, Pistons had 48 to Cleveland's 40. And the largest lead for the Pistons in this one was 4, and the largest lead for Cleveland was 11. This wasn't a game where it was a blowout. This was a game where it was back and forth. But Cleveland had a majority of the lead in this one. But again, Pistons lose this game to the Cleveland Cavaliers, 103 to 109. Next game is going to be against the San Antonio Spurs. We're going to get a rematch against Wemby and the Spurs down in San Antonio. That should be a really good game. We didn't have Stu in that last game, so I'm interested to see how having Isaiah Stewart against the Spurs can kind of maybe change the outcome of that game. Stephon Castle did a phenomenal job against Cade Cunningham, really good on ball and perimeter defender. So it'll be interesting to see how they can kind of attack him defensively. And you also have to worry about Wemby. So that is going to be a game that I think a lot of Pistons fans are going to be locking in for, because the Spurs are one of the better teams in the Western Conference. So that'll be a good game. And then you have a back-to-back Friday. Not Friday. I misspoke. You have a back-to-back Saturday, Sunday. So you come home for one game against the Brooklyn Nets, and then you go down back to Florida in Miami for a back-to-back. So Spurs, Nets, Heat. So I think the rest of these games this week will be very entertaining, but we will see you guys on our post-game show against the Spurs. And before I do kind of wrap this podcast up, kind of just looking at this game as a whole, like this was only a 1 point game on the FanDuel odds. Like FanDuel thought this was going to be going down to the wire, and it did. Like it looked like the Pistons were going to try to play spoiler and come back and force overtime again. But really entertaining game. Whatever does happen in the playoffs, the Pistons do match up against Cleveland in the second round. I think it would be so much fun to watch those two teams just dogfight and battle it out. I'm sure it would be a crazy 6 to 7 game series. But hope you guys are staying safe, staying warm. And as always, go Pistons. Peace.